Hey, we back. I'm here on Mudae, and we are doing a kind of overview video today. I've done a lot of videos on Mudae, some pretty general, some pretty specific. But actually, one thing that I've not done is just an overview of all of the strategies. So this is going to be pretty general. I'm basically just going to go over everything that you need in order to do as best as you can at Mudae. If you want more detail about any one subject, I've probably done a video about it in the past, so I would advise you to go and check that out. But yeah, I'm just going to be going over pretty much everything that you need in Mudae to just do well, to win, to get all the best characters or all your wishes or whatever, right? So let's get right to it instead of waffling. Start by going through Kakera, how to get lots of Kakera. It's obvious the more Kakera you get, the more upgrades you are going to get, and the better characters that you're going to get. A lot of people will say, oh, go for your silver badge or whatever because you get more wishes, but in the long term, you just want to get as much Kakera as possible. It's actually more important. I would advise you to prioritize Kakera over getting characters that you want at the start, because the chances are your server will reset eventually, even if it does take quite a few months. And then because you have the huge advantage over Kakera, then you can just claim everything, and that's really what you want. So getting Kakera, obviously, first of all, just by rolling often, try and roll every hour, roll as much as you can. You get, as you see, a lot of Kakera just by doing stuff, just by you roll and you get keys, you react and you get Kakera, you claim and you get worth, like whatever. Just roll as much as possible. You want to be getting there every hour. In terms of getting Kakera reacts, you've got purse rare, set rare. Oh, I misspelled that. It worked anyway. Fantastic. Why the hell did that work? Alright, so yeah, this will basically just give you more Kakera reacts. You want to set it to a lower value if you want more Kakera reacts. If you're getting too many Kakera reacts for your power, set it to a higher value. I would suggest, if you're a server owner, keep your set rare at 4 or the maximum, because it just allows everyone else to pick. It gives more options. If you put set rare at 1, it means everyone is forced to use purse rare 1, basically. But yes, I would advise using purse rare 1, especially at the start of a server, so you can get as many reacts as possible. Even if you do have enough reacts to max out your Kakera power usage, you probably still want to use purse rare 1, just so that you have a higher chance of getting better reacts. Maybe instead of getting turquoise, you can get greens or whatever. In terms of divorcing, you probably want to keep claims. As much as divorcing does give you a fair bit of Kakera, I could divorce 2 Earl here, for example, get like 100 Kakera. It's not that much. And yeah, of course, at the start of a server, you're probably going to be claiming characters that are worth hundreds of Kakera. You could divorce them for hundreds of Kakera. But in the long term, you will get a lot more Kakera from the keys. If we have a look at info keys, you can see the benefits that keys give. For the most part, it's increasing Kakera value, which is obviously pretty good, because let's say you claim like 02, she's worth 1,000 Kakera. You wait till you've got a bunch of keys on her, she goes up to be worth 1,500, and then you divorce her. That's pretty stonks. Not to mention that Kakera per character goes up over time as more characters are claimed. So the longer you leave it before divorcing, the more Kakera you will get. Not to mention, the more reacts will be available. So for the most part, you don't want to divorce. Just wait until reset, and then you get your Kakera anyway from Bitesthedust Requiem. You're fine. However, that's not to say never divorce. You can divorce sometimes if you're like really close to buying a badge. If you like, especially with your gold and sapphire badges, which we'll get to in a second. If you're really close to leveling one of them up and you want to divorce like a character for a couple of hundred Kakera just to get you there sooner, that's totally reasonable. I would advise doing that for sure, because the benefit of having the extra badge, even just a couple of hours earlier, can be pretty big, especially if it's like Sapphire 4 or something. That can get you thousands of Kakera just because you got it a couple of hours earlier. So yeah, that's certainly worth doing. But in general, you don't want to be like divorcing everything you claim. A lot of people think that is smart. It really isn't in the long term. And again, you want to go for the long term, really. Claiming a couple of characters that are high ranked at the start doesn't actually give you much benefit. If you can get the Kakera advantage, then you can just claim everything later on. There have been servers that I've been in where at the start of the board I don't do too well. Per se, because I'm just going for Kakera, get really high up on the TSK leaderboard, and then after that, you just go ham and claim every character in the bot, and no one else can catch up to you. You own like all of the top 100, you know, just because you had the Kakera advantage. It really makes a big difference. Another thing, speaking about badges, we have badge value. Badge value is going to increase or decrease the value of badges. You can set them all to 1,000, which is the minimum, if you want to get badges as quickly as possible. Note that this does ruin a bit of the balance. Obviously, some badges are better than others, but that's not to say it's particularly balanced anyway, because Gold and Sapphire are by far the best badges and not the most expensive ones. So you can do the balance however you like, really, and fiddle about with it. If you do want everyone just to get badges really quickly, then you can set it all to 1,000. But it's worth mentioning that what you want when going for Kakera is not simply to max out all the badges. You want to have more badges than everyone else. If everyone maxes out their badges, you don't have an advantage. What you want is that advantage so you can claim stuff that other people can't claim. Like if you're the only person on a server that has RT, you are straight up just getting more claims than everyone else. And that is really good. So don't just set the badges to minimum value so you can max them out faster. What you want is to set them at a value where you think you know a good strategy and you can max them out, but no one else can. Of course, this is assuming you have moderator commands. Badge value is a moderator command. But if you're setting up a server, do that. And if you are not a moderator, you can ask your server moderators to do that. So there you go. Speaking of server moderator commands, we have Bitesthedust Requiem abuse. It says if I search Requiem, is it going to pop up everything? Here we go. So divorce characters with Bitesthedust Requiem and Thanos All Requiem give Kakera value to their owner. So for example, if I have a look at TSV here, you can see that I have her own worth of about 600,000, which is not bad. If I run Bitesthedust Requiem here, I wonder if it'll actually work or if I'm still on cooldown. No, I'm still on cooldown. As it says, limited to use every 15 days. I'm actually almost off cooldown, so that's fun. But if you run Bitesthedust Requiem, you are going to get the amount of Kakera that it shows in TSV. So for me, I would get just over 600,000 Kakera, which, as I'm sure you're aware, is quite a lot of Kakera just to get in one hit, you know? I mean, that's enough to max out the default cost badges multiple times over. So that's certainly worth having. What's interesting is you can then do restore user, which will give you back your characters, basically. But you still keep the Kakera. So this is just a method of getting free Kakera every 15 days. This is why it has a cooldown. So this is server owner only, because you have to be the server owner to use Bitesthedust. But if you are the server owner, you can divorce everyone and then restore them. Everyone gets a bunch of Kakera, especially obviously the people at the top of TSV are going to get the most Kakera out of something like this, which is again another reason not to divorce characters, because if you're high on TSV you get more out of Bitesthedust Requiem. Okay, on to badges. As I mentioned, Sapphire and Gold badges are the best ones. I will quickly explain that. Again, if you want details, I have a video on it. So as I said, getting Kakera is what you want. The Gold badge reduces the amount of Kakera power that you use. By default, you use 100% of your power every time you react, and by decreasing that, you can bring it down all the way to 15%. That's using your Gold badge maxed out, your Ruby 3 badge, which helps out with that 20% power, your Kakera Tower, which we'll get to in a little bit, reduces it by an extra 10%, and your level 10 keys cuts it in half. So if you do the maths, that brings you down to 15% per react, which is that's pretty good, considering you get 100% by default. With your whole 100%, you can react to, 6 Kakera in one go and still have leftover power. Not to mention you can upgrade your 100% cap, again with towers, which we'll get to later. So the point is, Gold is a really good badge. It means you can react to more Kakera, you get more Kakera later on. It's really good, you want that badge. Sapphire, 1 roll per level. This in of itself depends on your server how good it is. If your server has a high amount of rolls anyway, especially if you have server premium, your max is probably like 13, and so that extra one roll doesn't add so much. It's like an extra 7% of your total rolls, which isn't huge. But if you have a smaller server with no premium or lower rolls, then it adds a much higher percentage, which is pretty nice. But obviously, having more rolls in general is good. On this server, I have like 50 rolls or something. There you go, 45 rolls. So, you know, that's pretty good. And as I'm sure you can imagine, having 45 rolls means that I have a much higher chance of rolling good characters. So getting Sapphire is good for that. But what you really want Sapphire for is the Sapphire 4 bonus, which means blue Kakera are replaced by yellow Kakera for your rolls. This is really good because yellow Kakera is worth like 3 times as much as blue Kakera. And so that's going to get you a lot more Kakera than you were before. I would say in general, once you buy the Sapphire 4 badge, the amount of Kakera that you get just doubles straight away, because you can get so many more yellow reacts, and especially when you start getting the level 3 keys, you start getting orange reacts as well. You're never going to have to claim anything below yellow, or even later on below orange, which is really good. You're going to get thousands of Kakera every hour just from reacts, in theory, later on. Admittedly, it's mostly light Kakera that does that, as you could see at the start of the video, me getting 1,000 odd. But yes, I mean, the Sapphire 4 is the start of that journey. So you really want to go for that. So, what order do you buy the badges in this case? You want to start off by going for gold. Obviously, when you first start out on the bot, you haven't unlocked Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald yet. As it says, you need some particular badges to unlock them down here. So you want to go for gold initially. Max that out instantly. As soon as you can, just go all the way for gold 4, because the gold 4 bonus is really good as well. Once you've got all your badges maxed out, gold 4 bonus itself is about 1,000 Kakera per day, which is pretty good. So yeah, you want to go for gold, and then you want to go for Sapphire. Now obviously Sapphire is locked, so just buy your silver and bronze 1. No need to go higher than that. Silver and bronze are not good badges. People will say they are because you get higher percentage chance of wishes, and you do get higher percentage chance of wishes, obviously. But it really doesn't make that much difference. I've said about this in other videos, feel free to check them out. So yeah, you get your bronze and silver 1, and then you go for Sapphire, all the way up to Sapphire 4. You now have gold 4 and Sapphire 4. At this point, you should be getting thousands of Kakera per day, no issue, with those 2 badges. You then want to get Emerald 1. Emerald 1 by itself is the best badge upgrade in the game. Emerald 2, 3, and 4 are garbage. Don't bother with them until very late on. But Emerald 1 is amazing because you get that extra claim. And it means that you have no fear of claiming a mediocre character. Let's say in server reset, you don't want to claim a 400 Kakera character in case you roll an 1,000 one. There's a bit of fear there. And obviously, in some times, that's pretty good because you get the 1,000 Kakera character. But a lot of times, you just miss out on the 400 Kakera characters. And overall, you're going to be losing out on a lot of Kakera because of that. So if you get your Emerald 1 badge, you get RT. You can claim those 400 Kakera characters without having to be scared about then rolling an 1,000 Kakera one later on. That's what's really good about RT. It removes the fear of rolling, which is really good because, as I said, the first thing I said in the video was that rolling as much as possible will get you more Kakera, so you don't want to be afraid of rolling. That's the opposite of what you want. So yeah, go for that RT. After that, start going for Ruby. Ruby 1 and 2 are not good, but Ruby 3 and 4 are good, so that's pretty nice. And then once you get to near maxing out Ruby, you want to go for a Kakera refund, which is a moderator command. You can ask one of your server moderators to do that for you if you don't have the perms. Normally they will oblige, so you shouldn't worry about that. And then you want to go for the most optimal spending route. A lot of people will tell you to go for this initially, and don't listen to them, because while it is the most efficient way of getting all the badges and spending the least Kakera, you barely gain any Kakera while doing doing it. So you want to wait until you can afford all the badges before going for this. Well, not all of them, but close enough. You get the point. So yeah, you go for your Kakera refund and then you buy bronze 2, silver 2, gold 2, and then ruby 4. You've probably heard that one before because, as I said, is the most efficient way to buy all the badges. The downside of going for this initially is you spend ages getting your ruby 4 badge and then it takes ages to get sapphire. Trust me, if you go for sapphire and gold first, you will be higher on TSK. You will get more Kakera. Just go for the Kakera refund later on. It's kind of a method of getting like a free 20,000 Kakera at that point, which is worth having at the start of the bot for sure. It'll get you a free badge, you know. So yeah, and then of course you want to max out your gold and sapphire after doing that again because they are the best badges. Emerald comes last. Emerald 1, really good. As I said, Emerald 2, 3, and 4, really bad. Don't bother with them until you've got everything else. Okay, let's move on to KT now. KT is the Kakera Tower, another set of upgrades. You're probably going to be concentrating them on after you've done your badges. But that's not to say that you can't do them while doing badges as well. The initial cost of your first floor of KT is going to be 5,000 Kakera, which is kind of a mid-cost badge. It's not bad as costs go, so you should probably get one or two of them at the start while you're still doing your badges, but I wouldn't go too far on it. Assuming you buy the best floors first, which I will get to in a second, then once you've bought a couple of floors, then the floors that are available to you are not going to be as good because you've already bought the good ones. And the cost is going to go up quickly. Even after only buying 2 badges, then 2 floors, the next one is going to cost 15,000. So you're starting to get more expensive at this point. And of course the towers, the floors that you're buying are not as good. So in terms of order, well, as you can see, I've got 7, 8, 10 and 11. These are the best floors. 7 and 8 are the best. People ask which is better, 7 or 8. This kind of depends on your playstyle, and realistically it doesn't make too much difference. In theory, people that are more active want to go for floor 8. People that are less active want to go for floor 7. You will notice as well that the effect of my floor 8 is a little different from what yours is, because I've already maxed it out. But for you, it will be a minus 4% or minus 2%, depending on how many towers you've got, of your Kakera power usage. So it's kind of like a mini gold badge. And as I said, gold badge is really good. So yeah, you want to get that. Floor 7 is also pretty good though. So yeah, get one of them, I would say. Floor 10, Light Kakera, give 1 random Kakera. Light Kakera is late game the best Kakera in the game. I mean, yeah, okay, in theory Rainbow Kakeras are probably going to be better, but Rainbow Kakeras are really rare, and eventually Light Kakera can be worth more anyway. So yeah, you want to go for that Light Kakera as much as possible, and if you can upgrade it, that's even better. Once you've got a few towers, your Light Kakeras are going to start being worth thousands, and this makes level 10 a pretty good floor. Level 11 is basically a Sapphire badge, which we've discussed is pretty good. Of course, the best thing about the Sapphire badge is Sapphire 4, which floor 11 isn't giving you. But yeah, floor 11 is alright, so I would advise getting these 4. However, that's not to say that the other ones are completely awful. Floor 1 is okay. I mean, it's like a couple of bronze badges. As I said, bronze badges are not that good. But once you've already got these other 4, then, bronze badges, sure, worth having. Level 3 is not bad. This is going to increase your limb roll limit or your disable list size, which we'll get to later in the video. And this is not bad, certainly worth having. I would advise going for this again after you've got these 4. And then there's floor 2, which is like a really crappy silver badge. This is not as good as people think it is, the same as silver badges. But, at least it does do something, so I guess you could get that after you've got 1 and 3. Other than that, the other floors are really not that great, probably not going to be helping you. Floor 4, 5, and 6 is chances for second keys. By themselves, this doesn't make too much difference. Once you start getting a lot of towers, and they do add up, they do help you out, you're going to need a lot of wish list slots for it to be worth it, and you're going to need to be going for those keys on the high characters, which you may be doing, you may not be doing. So again, it depends on your playstyle. For the most part, I would say probably not worth it. But I mean, yeah, later on for sure, keys are certainly really good. You also have floor 9, which increases the gold keys max bonus. This is really, really good really, really late on. Once you start getting enough level 6 keys, which we'll get to later in the video, that you can cap out your gold keys max bonus, then you are at the point where level 9 is a really good floor, because it's an extra 500 Kakera per 3 hours. But it's going to take you a long time before you're capping out that bonus, and so up until you reach that point, floor 9 does literally nothing. So yeah, it's a good floor later on. Early game, don't bother. And then floor 12, I'm sure you're aware, is purely cosmetic, so get that one last. Okay, so the other strategy I would say with KT is, because the next step in the Kakera upgrade chain is KLs, which we'll get to in a second, you really want to max out all of your upgrades on KLs as fast as possible when you first get to them. So in order to do that, you want to put all of your Kakera into KT. Once you've maxed out your badges, just keep upgrading KT. Don't stop. Never go into KL. Just keep going on KT, trust me. Once you get to about 3,000 worth in KT, which you can check with the destroy command, which is not an admin command, my one is worth about 7 million. Once your one is worth 3 million, then you destroy it, and you put all of that Kakera into KLs at that point, not before. Maybe a little bit before, like 2.5 million or something, but in general, you want to wait for about 3 million. That is enough money to max out quality, max out quantity, spend some actual money on KLs, and then buy a couple of floors back again afterwards as well. So that's what you want to go for. This means that a large proportion of this game you're just going to be pouring money into KT, and trust me, it does get pretty expensive. So it may not be the most interesting thing, but for sure, once you hit that 3 million mark, you are going to get some huge upgrades. It is definitely worth the wait. Okay, let's do KLs next then, I guess. So KLs is the final tier of upgrades. Kakera Loots. You have quantity and quality, as I mentioned, which are upgrades for it. This increases the chances that you get rarer loots and increases the chances that you get double the amount of loots for your upgrades. Like I said, you want to max out these as soon as possible. By the time you get to KLs, you will have that 3 million Kakera, so you max both of them out, and then you just start spamming KLs. This is going to give you some rolls and some other cool stuff. What you really want to go for is the perm rolls. The RT cooldown, RT cooldown is also great, and the wishlist slots are worth having as well. The other stuff, it depends. Obviously, it stacks. It stacks up. The disable limits are pretty nice. The Mudae pins are pretty nice. It's all pretty nice. But these bottom 3 are the ones that you really want to go for, and they are obviously the rarer ones. So yeah, watch out for that, I guess. But pretty much for these, once you get to the point where you can spend stuff on them, you probably know what you're doing by this point anyway. But just throw in Kakera to them. Try and go for that max 15-hour cooldown on your RT. That is the max mind. And then you're just kind of alternating, putting some Kakera in the tower, putting some Kakera in KLs, and so on and so forth. Right, let's do keys. Keys we talked about briefly before. Keys are an excellent method of making Kakera. There's not too much to say that I'm, at least in this video, I've got a video about keys. But for the most part, you want to be going for keys if you can. Claiming new characters is better than getting a key. So I wouldn't say wish for keys immediately. Wishing for characters, by the way, does increase the chances of you getting keys on them. Yeah, I wouldn't advise doing that straight away, but once you get a little bit more into the game, you want to be wishing characters for keys. Try and get as many gold keys as possible, as many silver keys as possible, and even as many chaos keys as possible. All 3 of these upgrades are going to help the amount of Kakera that you get hugely. It's really good, and this is late game probably your main way of getting Kakera. You also have your soulmate list, which is a cool flex. I've got my soulmate list of like 100 pages or something. Only 95. Unbelievable. So this is a nice flex, but in the end it's just cosmetic, so it doesn't really matter. And for the most part, it's just a way of getting more Kakera. You do want to aim for keys, but only late game where they really start adding up. 1 key is not going to help you with anything. What you need is thousands of keys. On my profile on this server, I've got 4,000 bronze, 5,000 silver, 5,000 gold, and 3,000 chaos. This kind of amount of keys, this really helps. I mean, if I just sit and roll for a second here, you can see I got a chaos key here. That's going to be a half cost orange orange react, because of the level 3, half cost because of the level 10. There's a level 20 key, again that's half cost, and it's yellow because of my sapphire badge. Should we try and get one more? Oh, there's an actual claim I can take, actually. I don't even need to use RT, fantastic. Oh, and there's a couple of new soulmates too. Just how it goes, I suppose. I'll add them to my log later. So yeah, there you go. Keys do start being worth a lot to you later on, once they add up. But if you only have a couple of keys, it's not worth having. So you want to wait until your late game. And in order to get as many keys as possible, obviously, you want as many characters as possible. Go for that high TS MBR, which is also going to help with your high TSV. Once again, another reason not to divorce characters. Okay, let's do disable lists now. We are pretty much done with the video, but let's go over disable lists. Disable lists, as you can see, this server is Game Mode 2. You want to go for Game Mode 2, do not have a disable list in Game Mode 2. This is the first thing I'm going to say. It's the first thing I always say. Don't have a disable list in Game Mode 2. People will tell you to have one anyway. It does not help. It actually makes things worse, so don't bother with one. What you want on Game Mode 2 is to have limroll, which does the same thing as disable lists, but better, and having a disable list overrides this. So just stick with limroll. As it says, you have your current limroll, and you have your maximum limroll. You can set limroll 1 to make sure you have your lowest limits, etc., etc. And just all in all, limroll, good stuff. I would advise using Game Mode 2. If you are not a server moderator and you do not get to decide which game mode you want, you will be on Game Mode 1, and then you want to have yourself a disable list. What disable list do you want? Well, this is up to you, really. Personally, I go with this one, or at least on this server where I have a lot of slots. Obviously, my overlap limit on here is a fair bit over the 20,000 because I've upgraded it with the KTs and the KLs. You are probably going to want to have Kakera and or Western in there. If you can fit both, do. But they are now big enough that they actually don't fit into the 20,000 characters initial overlap. So yeah, do not worry about having all of your slots filled up. You don't need them filled up. As long as your overlap limit is pretty close to being full, you're fine. Make sure it's pretty close to that 20k. Small optimizations of like an extra 50 characters really don't matter. It's not going to make any difference. Just make sure it's close to 20k. Also pay attention to these things here. So if you're rolling WA a lot, you don't want game characters disabled. I see a lot of people doing this a lot. They'll say, oh, I always roll WA and then disable like mobile games or something because it's a big bundle. Just think about that, right? If you disable mobile games, it's going to have game characters. Disabling game characters doesn't make any difference if you're rolling WA because you're not rolling game characters anyway. So you do have to think about what you're disabling. As you can see, since I roll WA, we're mostly going for anime characters, not too many game characters. It's not perfect though. As you can see, I've actually disabled more HA characters than I have WA characters on here, just because that's the way it worked out. In general, the only big thing is disable game or not game. The gender stuff is kind of hard to do because you'll find that most animes and most games have a reasonable even split of female to male characters. Of course, it does depend, and if you can optimize it, do. But in general, it doesn't make too much difference. Just shove a couple of big bundles there that you don't really want to roll and go from there. If you find that there is a lot of characters in these bundles that you do actually want to roll, you can use your anti-disable list, which will then enable you to roll that stuff anyway. I have a huge anti-disable list of stuff that personally I would like to roll. This is a mixture of just things that I like and things that are high ranked, and so you'll probably recognize a lot of names on here because it's high ranked. There's things like A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is not high ranked, but I would like to roll that stuff. And then there's stuff that's high ranked, like a Kamege Kill. You know, you can shove whatever you like on your anti-disable list. The less stuff you have on there, the more likely you are to roll things that you want. But equally, if the stuff that you want is disabled, you can't roll it. So like, what's the point? all in all, game mode 2 is better anyway, so just use that if you can. Mind having an anti-disable list on game mode 2 is still worth doing. As you can see, I do. It's a bit weird that it's displayed differently on each game mode, but yep, there you go. Anti-disable list on game mode 2 still makes sense. Finally, we have a couple of small points. We have slash commands. I will quickly mention slash commands. We have slash commands, which is the same as normal rolls. They actually give you a slightly higher chance to roll wishes and stuff like that. So in that sense, rolling with slash commands is more efficient. However, they actually have a pretty low cooldown. You can only send, I think, 2 slash commands every 5 seconds instead of 5 regular commands every second. It's something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Point is, it's a lot slower. And especially if you're in a lot of Mudae servers, you might simply get bored of using slash commands all the time because it takes a while. So personally, I just go with regular commands. I can't be bothered with slash commands. But that's up to you. You can do slash commands if you want to wait for them. If you're just naturally a slow roller anyway, then there's no issue. But yeah, I like to get my rolls done quickly so I can get on with something else. Get on with rolling on another server, you know. Finally, in terms of actually claiming stuff, one thing that a lot of people don't realize with right clicking, you have your reactions up here. That's a pretty quick way to react to stuff, quicker than like going up here and adding a reaction or whatever else. So yeah, the right click for sniping and stuff is pretty nice. I use that all the time for my claims. It is worth noting that if you have a reaction by default underneath it anyway, with your toggle reacts or whatever it's called, where it puts the heart underneath, then this will have actually a 3-second cooldown, so maybe don't do it. You just want to click on the react here. Most servers will have it so that the react pops up when it's a wish, so it makes it not great for taking wishes but good for taking other stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you obviously how you claim stuff and what you do. Personally, I go for this right click thing because it's pretty quick, and you will find it's a lot quicker than loading up the whole reaction menu, which might take a second. You've got to move your mouse and such. But I know sniping stuff matters a lot to some people, and assuming that you don't have your default reaction down here to snipe stuff, the right click react is pretty quick. So yeah, there you go. That's what I do for that. Anyway, I think we've pretty much gone over everything that I wanted to talk about now. This ended up being a pretty long video, but I mean, that's expected when I'm trying to go over everything in my day. I think we went through things pretty quickly. I will hopefully put some sort of skippable category things in the description so you can cut and go to wherever you want to go in the video, and that should be helpful. Other than that, like I said at the start, if you want more details on anything, I've probably made a video about it, so check that out. There's a whole playlist on my channel. If not, feel free to ask in the comment section, and I will attempt to answer you there. Although I will also probably point you towards a video that's been made anyway, because that is a frequent outcome. So yeah. Anyway, that's everything. So I will end this one here. Bye!